It's still got this funky music thing. It's just easier than trying to figure out new music. Hey, everybody, welcome to Wise Advice with FatDag. I'm your host, FatDag, and the lovely Miss Janine is also back with us. Say hello.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good.
It's been a week since we were here last. Anything new and exciting in your world?
No.
Short and sweet. I like it. So as you guys know, we got the podcast rocking and rolling again. We're in the new studio over here just north of Indianapolis. And so far, so good. We've been in here. This is probably the second show I think we've actually done from here, but we've been in here kind of getting things ready, getting things moved around. I haven't exactly landed on exactly what the room is going to look like yet, but we're getting there. It's functional. And I think we talked about on the last episode, sometimes you just got to get functional. And, you know, all the pretty things and all the decorations and the fanfare, while it's nice, just got to get functional. And so we're back to functional, which is good. And excited. I got two emails for you today. Robin out of Michigan and then Flo from Rhode Island have both written in, and I want to kind of share their emails with you. That's how this show works. If you guys aren't familiar, if any of you are new, just catching up, it's kind of a little bit like a cross between Dear Abby and Dave Ramsey, right? So you write in with your questions, comments, and we kind of dissect them, tell you what we would do, and help you out however we can, because we know this journey sometimes takes a little more effort than just effort. It takes a big hug sometimes. So we kind of offer that virtual hug to you, let you know you're not walking this alone. We're walking this with you and helping you any which way we can. You can find the podcast all over the internet. Just recently, we got it released over in Amazon Music. So if you're in the Amazon Music library, you can search for the podcast Wise Advice with FatDag. Of course, we're still in Spotify, still in Stitcher, still in iHeartRadio, still in Apple Podcasts. But the best way, in my opinion, the best way to find the podcast is to go to your app store if you haven't already. In your app store, look for Wise Advice with FatDag. It's an app that you can download. And all of the episodes there, this is episode 311. You can catch all 311 of them right in there. Without any additional commercials being thrown in by the advertisers or whatever. So you can certainly listen to that in the app. So go to the app store, find Wise Advice with FatDag, and go rocking and rolling there. The way the show works, you email in onair@fatdag.com, onair@fatdag.com. Heather and Lisa, the producers of the show, take your email, clean them up a little bit, and get them over to Janine and I to kind of dissect, digest, and roll forward. So that's the update. Let's go ahead and get into the email. Any quick update for you, Janine, before we rock and roll?
Not really. Things are moving and grooving here in the studio. Anxious to get it decorated a little bit more and make it feel a little more like our second home, but it's working, it's functioning, and we're excited about that and excited to have you out of the dining room.
Exactly. I can't wait to hang up my big American flag. A buddy of mine made a 3x5 American flag, and there's three options in this studio to put it. One option is a window, so I can't put it over the window. But I can't decide if I want it behind me or to my left or to my right. But I think what that means is I can't figure out where I want the desk to be, and that's kind of what I'm settling on. So, and then, I will not have the creative eye to get it decorated, so I will certainly rely on you to get it decorated. So, cool. All right, so the first email, like I said, comes in out of Michigan. Robin writes in, she says, "So glad to see you back, Mike. I've been doing WW for far too long, and I'm really trying to get out of the mindset of all or nothing. I've been doing really well since the beginning of the year. I was down 24 pounds, took a vacation, and I've had trouble getting back on track ever since. Well, 10 weeks later, I'm up about 8 pounds, but I'm ready to get serious and regain my health. Looking forward to the podcast." Robin out of Michigan. Robin, what a familiar story to so many of us, right? And so, when we do this thing, I've said this over and over, it takes focus, it takes determination. This is something you have to say, this is a priority in my life. But what that means is this is a priority in my day. You actually have to go all the way down to my meals. This is a priority for the morning. This is a priority for the afternoon. This is a priority for this evening. It has to be up there. It's not something you can just kind of roll into and say, hey, we want to get this done and, check in 8 weeks later. It's constant focus, effort, and deliberate attention is how it's going to get it done. Now, because we put in that constant effort and we're constantly focused, sometimes we get into the all or nothing mindset. Right? If we're that focused and we're that intense, we believe we have to do it so perfectly that, it's either all or nothing. And you've heard so many different stories of all or nothings, and they don't work, right? You have to kind of take it a bit by bit, make slow progress towards your goals, but keep the focus, keep the pedal on the metal in the focus lane. But if things don't go exactly perfect, that's okay. You have another opportunity at the next meal to get it right. So often, especially in this all or nothing mindset, we kind of want to make it say that it's I'll start over on Monday, or I'll wait till January 1st, or I'll wait till the first of the month. And kind of those are the three most popular days to start a diet, right? It's either coming up on Monday, start of the month, or start of the year. And realistically, you have the opportunity to regroup at the next meal. If you wake up and have a 10 trillion point breakfast, you can do better at lunch. You can do better at dinner. And so that's where we kind of have to keep that focus in and say, let's shed the all or nothing mindset and get going. So congrats on the 24 pounds. That's not something you can do accidentally. That is deliberate effort and focus, and you've made that happen. The fact that you've made it happen once means you can make it happen anytime you want, but it does take you making it happen to do it. So I appreciate the note writing in. What did you get out of that, Janine?
You and I have been together too long because I had all the same notes of things that you just said. The whole starting on a Monday, starting in January, starting whatever. But I think the important thing to remember with this all or nothing mindset, which is really hard to overcome, is that it's okay if not every day is perfect. I think people kind of sabotage their thinking and sabotage their success when they think, if I haven't done it all perfectly, then what I did do right doesn't matter. Every little thing that you do right matters. Even if breakfast wasn't great, but lunch and dinner were great, you made a deliberate effort to do the right thing for those two meals. And you have to celebrate those wins instead of worrying about the one meal that didn't go well. And Tuesday is just as good of a day to get healthy as Monday.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter which day of the week you start on, which meal during that week you start on. Making every meal a new priority, regardless of what happened the prior meal, I think is really important. We did a lot of pre-tracking when you first started the journey, and pre-tracking what you were having for breakfast and lunch. And then I would get a text at noon every day saying, I have this many points left for dinner. And we actually had a list on our refrigerator of some of your favorite go-to meals that we always had the ingredients for in our kitchen. And we would look and be like, okay, you have 10 points, you have 15 points, you have 5 points. What can we have for dinner? These are the options. We would pick one, and as a family, that's what we would have for dinner. So we kind of embraced it and made it a priority for all of us. I realize that's not the situation in every household, but it doesn't mean that you and your family have to have the same meal if that's what's going to help you to get back on track.
Well, and that takes a lot of pre-planning, right? That wasn't something that we just stumbled upon. That was something that we kind of grew into as we were rolling through this. And but it does lead credence to that notion of just got to do something and just got to take some action in some way. Any little action is better than no action. And that's where we have to take it. And, it's funny how we have the same notes because I do think we share a brain. I mean, or at least you let me share yours, right? You have all the knowledge, and I'm just here for my good looks. So I appreciate that. So Robin, again, you got this. Go ahead, take it one step at a time. Get rid of the all or nothing mindset. I want to hear from the rest of you out there. I want to know good examples of what you believe to be the all or nothing mindset, how you can break it, how you can change it. Let's talk a little bit about that. We can chat a little bit about it on Facebook. I'm on Instagram as well, Twitter. Interesting in what kind of conversations revolve around how you break your all or nothing mindset, or how you even recognize when you're acting in an all or nothing mindset. And kind of an example I'll give, is we just talked about. If you feel like you're doing all the right things, but you hop on the scale, but you don't get the results, then you feel like it's not worth it, and so you just give up altogether, but you don't realize that there was actually progress being made in that journey. So anything else, Jean?
No, I think it's just important to keep, starting each day fresh, recognizing what you're doing well. And I think the other thing that is probably hard along this journey is you see the memes all the time, like, I ate a salad for lunch, why aren't I thin yet? Or I worked out for 20 minutes. Why didn't I lose 20 pounds? It's not immediate. You have to start building those habits, getting into those routines, and make it a priority to take good care of yourself every day. regardless of what the scale is showing, because you had that along your journey too, where there would be days where you had done everything right and the next morning there was no lost weight. But then 3 days later, all of a sudden 4 pounds would be gone. Like it just kind of takes a little while to catch up. And I think not just using the scale as your sole means for determining whether you've been successful or not.
Yep. And the last point I want to make, and I highlighted this in Robin's email, it says, I am ready to get serious and regain my health. Folks, this is serious. That's the reality in what we're doing, right? You have to take it seriously. You have to understand that your health is at stake. Our health is at stake, every one of us. And this is a very serious topic, and which means we have to give it the attention it deserves. So again, Robin, thanks for writing in. Cheers to you for sure. And we will certainly look forward to hearing more from you as we go forward. Out of Rhode Island, the next email comes in from Flo. She says, hello. Not sure you will recall me, but you read my letter on episode 299. I was staying in a hotel with my son because our house flooded, and I was trying to clean the dust bunnies out of my head and open a window. Well, we were there for 8 months, and 8 months in a studio room with my son who has cognitive delays was a great time for my WW life. I lost 10 pounds during the high points of COVID. Then we finally went home. Well, it was about the same time that you kind of went off the air, and I was pretty new to your work, so I went back to listen to some of your older shows, but the change in responsibility and the time, yep, I found that 10 pounds back and more. Well, I've not been very kind to myself, and, well, the self-talk has not been positive, and now I'm looking at a huge change coming up my way in May. I'll be 65, and I'm going to retire. Another hard fact is when kids with cognitive delays become adults, there are not as many services, which makes it hard to work full-time. But I have a goal of downsizing and moving to smaller and easier to keep up with home, and maybe even heading south. If I can get all the fears out of my head, that's what I'm going to do. So anyway, I woke up this morning, I wrote a couple of goals, and as goals need direction, I wrote plans to get there. Now to clean those cobwebs out again and finally fall clean my life. Glad you are back, Flo. Flo, thanks for writing this in. And since I stole all of Janine's thunder last time, I want to kind of hear from her first as we roll through this.
Flo, I loved your email. I think, what you said resonates with so many people. Change is scary, whether it be retiring, moving, getting married, getting divorced, any kind of change in your life is scary. But what's even scarier is staying stuck somewhere where you shouldn't be. Whether it's the job you don't want, whether it's the lifestyle you don't want, the location you're living, any of those things. Some of the best things you can do for yourself are to just change your life and to embrace change, even though it's a little scary, and just go for it. When Mike retired, quite honestly, that was a little terrifying. We didn't know what was next, what the plan was, but it has honestly been the best thing he could have done for himself, for his health, and just for us as a family. Changing your location is scary. As many of you know, we moved this summer. We only moved about 3 miles away, but we downsized. We got rid of our very big family home that we had, got a smaller house, and that was terrifying, scary. I didn't know what we were doing. We had no room for half the stuff we had. We sold almost everything we had. And again, it has been the most positive change we've ever made. So I think that even though change is scary, that usually means it's because it's exciting. And I think we need to change the mindset of this is so scary to, ooh, this is so exciting. There are so many new things to discover as opposed to there's so much unknown. I don't know what's going to happen next. Think of it as a great opportunity, a refresh. Not many people get a chance to do that in their life, to just start over, refresh, take things from a new perspective. And I think it's exciting.
Yeah, no, it was, it's interesting when we decided we were going to sell the house, there was some deliberate action behind that. Like our intent was, let's go ahead and start over. Megan's up at college. She's happy up there. We got her an apartment. We don't need this big house that we had anymore, but what we really needed to do is get more intentional with what our intent was. And we had to kind of set that plan into motion. But you're absolutely right. The change part of it was kind of, I wouldn't say terrifying. I wasn't terrified during the process. I was kind of excited just to see where it goes. But I can see where you could feel it was terrifying to some degree because we didn't really know what to expect. And we've gone now and we've made it. The changes that we've made have been deliberate, and so they've been they've been great for us. And so that's fun. But so Flo, I say, when you have this big change coming up, part of what I want to kind of offer is you now have to figure out what is the goal. What is the goal? Why are we making this change? What is the reason that's driving it? And then after the change happens, what plan can I put in place to move towards making that change worth it? When we look back, there's no question it was the absolute right thing for us to do. But during the process, it was a little challenging and scary. And so I appreciate, that aspect of it. And, there are key points in our life where things like that, have a direct impact on everything we do. And retirement is a big one. So a big hug as you go through that process. Recognizing that, having kids at home and especially kids in your scenario with cognitive delays and cognitive, disabilities, man, that's my hat's off to you. And I got firsthand to see how some of those families thrive. And so our daughter is, that's part of her major in college is to work with children like that and adults with that. And so she keeps us posted as to what she's doing. And, there are resources out there. I get that they become limited as they get older. 100% understand that and see that. But I tell you, there are plenty of people still willing to kind of offer a hand and help you and go through that. So kudos to you for that. As a lot of folks have done, there was a period of time when the podcast was kind of slow in getting episodes out, but the back catalog certainly does exist in the Wise Advice app. So you certainly can go through and listen to all the episodes. One of the things that I kind of keep focused on for me is, some of the things I've said from episode 0 to episode 311, the knowledge hasn't changed, right? And so things that I've said back in the day are still very valid today. And so there is a level of, do-itness to some of that stuff, but the concepts are the same, right? You still are the same person. You still say who you are, regardless of what the scale says. So you don't lose that knowledge. So go back and paw through some of those older episodes, just like you've been doing. And that certainly keeps you connected to everything we're doing here. I want to dig a little bit deeper into the goal setting part of your email, because I think that's where we can draw the most knowledge and the most preparation and get the most benefit out of it. Dave Ramsey says quite often, he says a goal without a plan is really just a wish. And so I think a lot of times when we set goals, and it doesn't look like you did it in this scenario, but I'm kind of talking to the broader audience here. When we set goals sometimes, we have to make sure that what we're setting really is a goal versus just a wish. Meaning, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, well, that's at that point right now, it's just a wish. I want to. I said it was a goal, but if there's no action steps behind it, then you're not doing anything to make that goal happen. A goal should be something that motivates you, that pushes you in that direction, that gets you wanting to go there. But, there's different versions of who you talk to. And you've heard of the SMART goals, you've heard of STAR goals. But really the kind of the concept behind both of those is the goals need to kind of be specific in nature, right? And, I'm going to kind of go through the analogies a little bit, but it's got to be something that you're saying, no kidding, this is what I want to do. It's got to be very specific. But it really should be, I think it should be measurable and validatable. Meaning, the goal versus me saying, hey, I want to lose weight versus, hey, I want to lose 10 pounds. One is very specific. One is measurable. One is kind of, how can someone else validate if you've hit that goal or not? If you have the data points to track along the way, then you can say, yep, I started here. I'm moving in this direction. I ended here. That's how you can tell the goal has made sense. And so it's also got to be something that's attainable, right? Hey, I want to lose 50 pounds this week. Not necessarily attainable. So therefore, it goes back to the first email we talked about, a little bit of all or nothing, is as you start making progress, you kind of get lost in the, well, it didn't happen, so therefore I'm going to kind of give up. And, that's not the recipe for success. I saw on Connect the other day, someone said, I'm thinking about giving up, or I'm thinking about quitting. And my response was, man, if quitting worked, man, I'd be all over it, right? That's the easiest path. If that was the answer, man, if giving up and quitting worked, imagine all the things we could do if that was the right answer. But it's not the right answer. Just the opposite is the answer. You kind of got to go, no, giving up is not going to work. Quitting is not going to work. What's going to work is setting a goal. What's going to work is me saying, here is what I want to do, outlining it, get it written down on paper so you can visit it, share it with somebody. you can email it in here. We'll talk about it, but share it with someone close to you and say, hey, listen, I have a goal to lose 10 pounds before the end of the year. I'm going to wake up every morning. I have a plan. I'm going to track my points. I'm going to get my activity. I'm going to get some sleep at night. I'm going to do the things that I know I need to do. I'm going to pack my lunches. I'm going to, go grocery shopping every Sunday, whatever the scenario is. But those are steps into that goal to make it work. So that's kind of where I want you to kind of set goals and kind of take that difference between making it a wish or taking it from a wish and making it a goal that has some action steps. There's things that you can actually do to make it happen in your world. So,
yeah, and I think it's important to have that plan, because when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I think it's important for people to understand that, they have this goal, I want to lose 10 pounds, but they don't make a plan. And then the week comes and goes, or the month comes and goes, and they haven't realized that goal. And they're like, see, I knew it. I can't do this. I can't lose weight. But what they're failing to see is that they didn't fail in their goal. They failed to plan how to get there. And I think once you get that negative self-talk in and you feel like, see, I just can't do it, they give up. Whereas if they have that plan all along and follow it, they're more likely to at least reach part of their goal or start to see the progress. I think it all goes back to planning, and people don't realize that. You don't just wake up one morning and go, I'm going to lose weight, but then not do anything different and just hope it happens. There has to be a plan and a path for how you're going to get there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, that's not their fault in a sense where, they fail to make a plan, because I think sometimes making the plan is the hardest part, right? It's doing the stuff that, I'm kind of going to go on a little bit of a tangent here. The actual act of following the WW program or following whatever program you get or getting whatever you're doing, that following that is easy, right? Conceptually, it's easy. The challenge becomes is how do I make that work in my life? And so I have to plan around weddings. I have to plan around retirement. I have to plan around birthdays. I have to plan around Sunday Taco Day or Taco Tuesday Day or whatever at work. I have to make plans around that. So making the plan to fit your goal is where the challenge comes. So when a lot of times when we say you need to make a plan, a lot of us don't know what that plan needs to look like. So therefore, I think sometimes, that's where we can kind of assist a little bit, is say, okay, what is it that, what do you need to do today to move the needle? What's the best thing you could do right now to get closer to your goal? And I've asked the question before on previous episodes is does this action that I'm taking right now, does it move me closer to my goal or push me further away? And you should always want to choose things that move you closer to your goal. There will be times when you say, well, this one pushes me further away, but I'm okay with it at the moment because it's part of the plan. It's part of the greater plan. Right. And so you kind of got to take that into perspective. But planning is absolutely one of the key takeaways that we've got to get out of this.
Well, and I think planning, like you said, is so overwhelming because you're like, okay, I've got to plan lunch. I've got to plan dinner. I've got to plan breakfast. I've got to plan around this party I have this weekend. I've got to, forget it. I'll just do it next Monday. This week's too busy. But I think we fail to see that small little changes every day are a great way to start. Maybe this week, the only goal is that between lunch and dinner, the only snacks you have are fruit instead of other things. And maybe that's the only change you make this week. And then next week, the change is I'm going to eat breakfast and lunch at home, or I'm going to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner at home, and I'm going to prepare those meals. Or maybe it's instead of getting French fries with Chick-fil-A, I'm going to get a fruit cup. Maybe it's something so simple that you can commit to doing all week and not a big overhaul of everything in your life all at once. Because I think it goes back to that all or nothing mindset. When you're like, I'm all in, I have to do every single thing, you're exhausted by Friday and ready to give up. Or if it's just one little small change all week, you're like, oh, I can do this. I can maintain this. I can help myself lose weight. And then the next week you're like, oh, now I'm going to try this. And then you make another change. And these two little changes are easy to maintain all week. And then you start to see the results. And I think it doesn't always have to be that all or nothing or that I'm going to revamp everything all at once, because in any aspect of life, trying to change every single aspect of your life all at once is setting yourself up for disappointment. Well, it's just too hard to maintain.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely not sustainable. And so what's the adage, right? How do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time, right? And so, and really it's that first bite that we have to take sometimes. And I don't know how many points an elephant is. Lee, if you're out there listening, go ahead and look it up and kind of put it in the tracker, figure out how many points an ounce of elephant it would be. But obviously we're joking. But yeah, it's one bite at a time. It's one step at a time. And that's kind of, Goal setting and planning is the bigger part of this. Following the directions are easy if you have everything going well. The plan is when things aren't exactly perfect in your life, then you can revert to the plan to get you to make the changes and habits that push you in the right direction. So that's the focus of what I want to make sure that you get. And it sounds like, based on your email, Flo, the way you kind of wrote this in is that, that you wrote a plan to get there. So you're well ahead of the game, right? You have that plan. And so that plan needs to incorporate a lot of different days, right? There's a different plan for Monday than it is on Friday. It's completely different. And so take inventory of your life and kind of look and say, where do I have the most challenges? And then formulate a plan during times when it's the most challenging. So great job. I appreciate the email. Great job getting your thoughts out of your head. That a lot of us live up there, and there's no room up there for what we got. Life is so wonderful. It's meant to be enjoyed. And if you can kind of clean the cobwebs out of there and just take kind of an inventory of all the things that are going right in your life, you'll realize that making a plan is worth it, and moving you in the right direction is absolutely worth it. So great job. Proud of you. And last words to Janine, and we'll sign this thing out.
I think, as you're looking at changes, be they small or bigger, and hopefully you're starting small so that you can sustain it. But I think one of the things that's really important is, if you're trying to make one little small change and it's not working, analyzing a little bit, not driving yourself crazy, but analyzing little things that are preventing it from working. And those of you who've been here for a while know that FatDag is not a big fruit and vegetable eater, never has been.
Nope.
And one of the things we went through when he was first starting this journey is, I want to eat more fruit. I want to eat more fruit. I want to eat more vegetables. And so we would buy apples every Sunday, and every following Sunday I would throw them away because they were rotten and they hadn't been touched. And he kept saying, but I want to eat apples. So we kept buying them, and we kept doing this over and over again, and he wasn't eating them. And then we discovered it was they're just too, if I grab it, I'm not going to bite into it. I'm trying to work, whatever. And so a simple change is buying the little baggies, even though they're more expensive, of pre-sliced apples helped you to reach that goal. Yep. Of eating more fruit. So sometimes it's not that you don't want to do it. It's just you have to make it work for your lifestyle. If you're someone who does not eat lunch at home and you're packing lunch, maybe it's easier for you to pack, pre-packaged things of goldfish instead of buying the big bag and having to put them in baggies and count out the points. If you're buying the pre-packaged bags, maybe a little bit more expensive, but if it's more convenient and it helps you to keep track, maybe that's the thing you need to do to help reach these goals. Sometimes a slight little change in what you're doing can make a huge difference too.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So, Janine, I really appreciate, I got a couple emails from folks who were in notes on Facebook who were just thrilled that you are participating, and they love all your insight. And, I just want to kind of publicly say it as well, that you do offer quite a different, in a good way, it's quite a different insight, and it kind of balances me out. And you're absolutely the reason for all of my success. And, I appreciate you being here. I know for you, if you and I get up on a Sunday morning right now, coming over and recording this, I know we'd have other things that we want to get done today, but I appreciate you taking time out of your day to kind of share your thoughts with us and with the folks that are listening. And, I tell you, it matters. And that's what I want to know. I want you to know is that, you participating and helping not only helps me, but it helps thousands of folks who have found this show, whether it be in, it's like Spotify or iHeartRadio. And of course, Amazon Music, like I said. But, it's interesting as I look at the download data, different apps that you are using, it kind of gives us back to, there isn't one way to do anything, right? There's so many, and that's the reason this podcast is listed everywhere, is because I know that everybody has their preferences. And when it comes to getting this journey done, you have to figure out what your preferences are and work towards those and use those strengths to kind of push you in the right direction. So, that's all we have for this episode 311 in the books. I told you before, this takes focus. It takes deliberate focus and effort. I believe you can do it, and so, we talked about before, I wish you good focus during this journey, because it does nothing to do with luck as we go through. So, on that note, thank you all for writing in. If you want to be featured on the show, go ahead, email in onair@fatdag.com. Heather and Lisa will kind of take your email, get it ready for the show. And then next week, Janine and I will kind of release another episode talking about everything you want to talk about on the show. But that's it for now. FatDag Janine out. Cheers. Take care. We love you all. Be good.